What if two men who died centuries ago, prophets of fire and law, suddenly stood alive, glowing, talking with Jesus on a mountain? Moses, buried by God himself. Elijah, swept to heaven in a whirlwind. Both there, in dazzling light, with the Son of God. Why them? What were they saying? And why does this moment matter to you? This is the story of the Transfiguration, a supernatural collision of heaven and earth that cracked time itself. Climb this mountain with me, because what happened up there will shake how you see life, death, and God's promises. A shattered expectation. Let's set the scene. It's not a calm day. The air is heavy, charged with confusion. Jesus has just dropped a bombshell on his disciples. The Son of Man must suffer, be rejected, and die, but rise again in 3 days. Imagine hearing that. You've seen this man walk on water, heal the blind, raise the dead with a whisper. And now he's talking about dying. It doesn't make sense. Peter, bold and fiercely loyal, can't take it. He pulls Jesus aside, his voice shaking. "No, Lord, this can't happen. I won't let it." But Jesus doesn't comfort him. He turns, eyes blazing, and says, "Get behind me, Satan. You're thinking like man, not God." Can you feel that? The sting of those words like a slap to Peter's heart. It wasn't just a rebuke, it was a spiritual earthquake. Jesus wasn't angry at Peter, but at the lie trying to pull him off the path of the cross. The disciples are reeling, lost in fear and questions. They don't understand where this is going. The air hums with tension, like the world is holding its breath. Have you ever been blindsided by something you didn't see coming? A moment where everything you thought you knew crumbled? That's where the disciples are. But 6 days later, Jesus turns to 3 of them, Peter, James, and John, and says, "Come with me." No explanation, no promises, just a call to climb a mountain, and that's where everything changes. The climb to the unknown. Why these 3? Why not all 12? Peter, the impulsive rock, James, the quiet strength, John, the beloved dreamer. They're not just disciples, they're witnesses, chosen to see something beyond human understanding. As they climb, the village below fades. The air grows thin, the path rocky. Their sandals kick up dust and their hearts pound, not just from the climb, but from a feeling they can't name. In Jewish tradition, mountains aren't just earth. They're holy ground, where heaven kisses the world. Moses met God on Sinai in fire and smoke. Elijah heard God's whisper on Horeb. Now Jesus is leading them up a nameless peak, and the heavens are stirring. Can you imagine it? Following someone you love, someone you trust, but not knowing why. Your feet ache, your mind races, but something tells you to keep going. That's what Peter, James, and John are feeling. They don't know it yet, but they're about to see eternity crack open. Are you ready to climb your own mountain? To follow God even when He's silent, when the path makes no sense? Because what's coming will change everything. The light that broke time. The sun dips behind the peaks, shadows stretching like fingers across the mountain. Peter, James, and John stand breathless, their robes fluttering in the wind. Then it happens, something no words can fully capture. Jesus changes, not just a glow, but a metamorphosis. His face shines like the sun, radiant, blinding. His clothes turn dazzling white, brighter than any bleach could make them. This isn't the carpenter from Nazareth anymore. This is the Son of God, His glory unveiled, heaven spilling out through His human skin. And then 2 figures appear. Not ghosts, not visions, but alive. Moses, the lawgiver who spoke to God face to face, who parted the Red Sea, who died alone on a mountain. Elijah, the prophet who called down fire, who was swept to heaven in a chariot of flame. Centuries gone, yet here they stand glowing, talking with Jesus. Luke tells us they're discussing His departure, His exodus, His death and resurrection in Jerusalem. Wait, an exodus? Like the one Moses led out of Egypt? This is no coincidence. Jesus isn't just dying. He's leading a new exodus, out of sin, out of death, into life. How did the disciples know it was Moses and Elijah? No portraits, no name tags. They knew because this was no dream. Heaven was touching earth, time bending, eternity breaking through. Have you ever felt a moment so holy you couldn't explain it? Like the veil between you and God thinned, and you saw something bigger than yourself? That's what's happening here. And it's about to get wilder. the voice that shook the mountain. Peter, overwhelmed, blurts out, "Lord, this is amazing. Let's build 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, one for Elijah." He's panicking, desperate to hold on to this moment, to make it last. Don't we do that? When God shows up, don't we want to freeze it, to build something to keep it forever? But before Peter can finish, a cloud descends. Not just any cloud, but the Shekinah, the glory of God. The same cloud that led Israel through the desert, that filled the temple, that covered Sinai. It's thick, radiant, terrifying, and from that cloud comes a voice. "This is my Son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him." The disciples collapse, faces in the dirt, hearts racing. This isn't just awe, it's holy fear. They're undone, trembling before the voice of God himself. But then Jesus steps forward. The light dims, the cloud lifts, and he touches them gently. "Get up," he says. "Don't be afraid." They look up, and Moses is gone. Elijah is gone. Only Jesus remains. Only Jesus. Can you feel the weight of that? The law, the prophets, the glory, all pointing to him. Why Moses and Elijah? Why these two? Why not Abraham, the father of faith? Why not David, the king after God's heart? Moses and Elijah aren't random. They carry the weight of God's story. Moses is the law, God's friend, the one who brought the 10 Commandments, who led Israel out of slavery. But he died, buried by God himself, his grave hidden. No tomb, no relics. Why? Because Moses didn't belong to earth, he belonged to God. Now, centuries later, he stands with Jesus, the true lawgiver, the one who fulfills every command. Moses never entered the promised land, but here he stands on holy ground with the promised one. Elijah is the prophet, the wild, fiery voice crying out for God. He called down fire, raised the dead, challenged kings, and he never died, taken to heaven in a whirlwind. Moses represents the dead, Elijah the living. Together they're the past and the future, the law and the prophets, testifying to Jesus. Both had seen God's glory. Moses begged for it, Elijah hid from it. Now they see it fully unveiled in Jesus' face. This isn't just a meeting, it's a declaration. Everything they lived for, everything they pointed to, is standing right there. Have you ever felt like you missed out on something big? Like you were so close to a promise, but it slipped away? Moses died staring at a land he couldn't enter. Yet here he is, face to face with the one who opens heaven itself. What if your disappointments aren't the end? What if God's keeping something greater for you just beyond the veil? The echoes of prophecy. This moment was foretold. Moses, before he died, said, "The Lord your God will raise up a prophet like me. You must listen to him." Deuteronomy 18:15. On the mountain, God echoes those words. "This is my son. Listen to him." It's no accident. Jesus is the prophet Moses spoke of, but greater, God in flesh, and Elijah. The last words of the Old Testament in Malachi promise, "I will send Elijah before the great and dreadful day of the Lord." The Jews waited for Elijah's return, leaving a chair empty at Passover. And now, here he is, standing with Jesus, confirming he's the one they've been waiting for. But Jesus adds a twist. When the disciples ask, "Why do the teachers say Elijah must come first?" he says, "Elijah has already come." He's talking about John the Baptist, who came in Elijah's spirit, preparing the way. Yet the real Elijah is here too, sealing the promise. This mountain isn't just a moment, it's the hinge of history. The law, the prophets, the promises, all meet in Jesus. The collision of eternity. This isn't just a story about light and clouds, it's about time breaking open. Moses, dead for centuries. Elijah, gone in a whirlwind. Jesus, still in human flesh. All standing together, talking like old friends. Past, present, and future collide. The disciples see it, and it rewires their souls. Jesus isn't just a teacher or a miracle worker. He's the center of everything, every law, every prophecy, every hope. The Transfiguration isn't just a dazzling display. It's God saying, "This is my son. He's the one you've been waiting for." What does this mean for you? It means the Bible isn't just a book of stories, it is a treasure map pointing to Jesus. Every law, every prophecy, every sacrifice whispers his name, and it means heaven isn't as far as you think. Moses and Elijah stepped out of eternity to stand with Jesus. What if eternity is closer than you realize? What if God is weaving your story into His, even now? The call to climb, let's get real. You're living in the shadow of this mountain. Maybe you're climbing your own right now. A path of questions, doubts, or pain. Maybe God's silent and you're wondering why. But what if He's leading you to a moment where the veil thins, where you see His glory? Peter, James, and John didn't understand the climb until they saw the light. Maybe you won't understand your journey until you see Him. The Transfiguration tells us Jesus is enough. When the cloud lifted, Moses and Elijah were gone. Only Jesus remained. The law fades, the prophets point, but Jesus stays. He's the fulfillment of every promise, the answer to every question. And He's calling you to climb, to trust, to keep going even when it's hard. Have you ever stood in a moment so big you wanted to hold on to it forever? Maybe it was a quiet prayer, a sudden peace, a glimpse of something divine. That's what this story is about, God breaking through, showing you He's real, He's here, and He's worth it. The promise beyond the mountain. This story doesn't end on the mountain. Jesus leads them back down, back to the dust, the crowds, the cross. But Peter, James, and John are different now. They've seen eternity. They've heard God's voice. They know who Jesus is. And you're part of this story too. The Transfiguration wasn't just for them. It's for you. It's a reminder that Jesus holds time in His hands, that the promises you're waiting for aren't lost, that the God who brought Moses and Elijah to that mountain is weaving your story into His glory. So keep climbing, keep trusting, keep listening. The mountain of glory is real, and Jesus is waiting there, not just to shine, but to touch you and say, "Don't be afraid." The law pointed to Him. The prophets longed for Him. And He's calling you to see Him, to know Him, to follow Him. This is the story of the Transfiguration, a moment when heaven kissed earth, when time broke open and when God said, "This is my Son. He's everything."